Be me, 26, not ugly, not rich, somewhere in the middle. Working a normal office job, been dating since I was 19. Paid for everything the entire time, every single date without exception. Restaurants, coffee, movies, mini golf once. Even paid for her parking that one time, thought that was just what a man does. Nobody told me that, just absorbed it from everywhere. Watched my dad pay. Watched movies where men pay. Watched ads where men buy things for women. Internalized it completely, never questioned it once, until I got dumped after 8 months. 30-something dinners, 2 weekend trips I paid most of. She said she needed someone more present. I asked what that meant. She said she just felt like something was missing. Then she started dating a guy she met at a bar 3 weeks later. I had been very present for 8 months. He was present for one night and she was interested. I sat with that for a while. Did not get angry at her, just got confused. What was I actually purchasing with all those dinners? Started reading things I had never read before. Not red pill stuff, actual writing about gender economics, dating theory, some feminist writing too. Wanted to understand the whole picture. Kept coming back to one thing, the expectation that men pay is a gendered financial expectation, which means it is a gender role. And gender roles are what feminism is supposed to be dismantling, but this one seems fine. This one gets defended loudly. Interesting. Decided to run an experiment. Scientific mindset. Go on dates. Split the bill by default. Say nothing about it in advance. Observe what happens. Downloaded some apps. Started going on dates again. First one was a coffee place she suggested. Conversation was decent. Check came. I took my half. For second silence, she paid hers. Polite goodbye at the door. She never texted again. Marked it down. Second date. She was talkative. Funny actually. Lunch spot. Nothing fancy. Bill came. I split it. She paused and said, "Oh, are we splitting?" I said yeah. She said, "Okay, cool." But her energy was different after that. Quieter, shorter answers. Date ended about 15 minutes later than it could have. She texted once more then stopped, marked it down. Third date. She picked a place, nicer restaurant. She ordered like she was at a celebration. Appetizer for herself, expensive entree. A glass of wine. Dessert. I had a burger and water. Bill came. I split it down the middle including the wine. I did not drink. Actually no, I split it by what each of us ordered. She looked at me like I had said something in a foreign language. Tay Dan left quickly. Blocked me by morning. Marked it down. Fourth date. Completely different. She opened with, "Just so you know I always split." I said great. We had the best conversation I had in months. No weird energy, no performance. Just two adults getting tacos. She texted first the next day. Marked that down too. Started noticing patterns. The women who were fine splitting tended to be more direct in conversation. Asked what I thought instead of waiting for me to lead. Had opinions they did not soften excessively. Seemed comfortable with me being a person and not a provider. The women who expected me to pay tended to lean back more in conversation. Let me carry more of the talking, were more careful about how they said things. It was not a perfect pattern, but it was a pattern. Told my work friend Marcus about all of this. He thought I was losing my mind. Said, "Man, you are going to end up alone." I asked him why men have to pay. He said because women have to deal with more on a date, safety concerns, getting ready, all of that. I said my getting ready takes effort too. He said it is not the same. I asked why. He said it just is not. I said that was not an argument. He said you are overthinking this. I said I was just thinking about it. That was apparently too much. Asked my sister. She is openly feminist, reads the books, goes to the events. I expected her to tell me I was being a jerk. She surprised me again. Said I split with my boyfriend and always have. Said the expectation that men pay is actually rooted in women being seen as dependent. Said real equality means equal financial participation. Then said but also men have been socialized to see paying as how they prove worth and that is also a problem. I said that was the most useful thing anyone had said to me in weeks. She seemed pleased. Asked another female friend, coworker, very career-focused. Said paying is about showing effort and investment. I said I could show effort by planning a thoughtful date, being present, being interesting. She said it is just a norm. I said norms can be examined. She said you sound like a philosophy student. I said I was asking a practical question. She said some things just are the way they are. I said that sentence has been used to defend a lot of things that later changed. She changed the subject to a work thing. Went on date 5. She seemed sharp, worked in law. Talked about gender equity cases in her second sentence. I was genuinely excited. Brought up the paying thing after she mentioned gender dynamics at work. Said I had been thinking about the same patterns. Her energy changed immediately, became slightly defensive. Said that is a different context. I asked how a gendered financial expectation at dinner differs from one at work. She said men have structural advantages that create an obligation. I said I am 26 and grew up without much money. She said that is not the point. I said then help me understand the point. She said I was being combative. I said I was asking follow-up questions, which I thought was what you do in a conversation. She said I clearly had some things to work through. I said I thought I was working through them right now by having the conversation. She asked for the check, split it herself before I could say anything, which was technically a win, I guess. Went home and wrote down everything. Was I being unreasonable? Genuinely asked myself this. Sat with it. Came back to the same conclusion. I am not saying women are wrong for wanting to feel valued. I am not saying generosity is bad. I am saying the automatic default where the man always pays, regardless of income, regardless of who asked whom out, regardless of any individual circumstance, is a gendered financial norm. And gendered norms are worth examining. All of them, including the ones that benefit women. Posted a thread about it online, made it measure and genuine. Asked people to think about where the expectation comes from. Responses were something. Some women were furious, called me cheap, bitter, emotionally unavailable, afraid of women. Some women agreed completely and said they always split. Some women said it was complicated and actually engaged thoughtfully. Men were also split. Some said just hey, it is not worth the fight. Some said they were exhausted by the expectation. Some told their own stories about being financially drained by dating. One woman commented something that stuck with me. She said men paying on dates is one of the last acceptable gender norms because it benefits women. She said she was a feminist, but even she could see the contradiction. Said we cannot claim equality and also claim financial exemption. That comment got buried under angry responses, but a lot of people quietly liked it. Date 6. She split without any discussion. Just picked up her cart when the check came. I picked up mine. It took 4 seconds. We kept talking about the thing we were talking about. It was remarkable how non-remarkable it was. Date 7. She assumed. Ordered freely. Sat back. Let me hold the check when it came. I split it anyway. She looked at the receipt for a long time. Then paid without saying anything. Never texted. Date 8. She actually said, at the start I asked you out so I'll cover it. I said we could split. She said no, it's on me. I said thank you, we had a good time. I got the next one. It was easy and clear and nobody performed anything. Started to understand something. The dates that felt best were not the ones where I pay. They were the ones where the money was the least interesting thing. Where it got handled simply and we moved on. The bill was not the point of the evening. So why was it loaded with so much meaning? Because it is a test, that is why. It is a proxy test for a set of values. Old values: man provides, woman receives. Man pursues, woman evaluates, man spends, woman decides if he is worth her time. That is the old story. The bill is a ritual from that story. And a lot of people are still running that story, while also saying they believe in a different one. Both things at the same time, without noticing the conflict. Met someone at a friend's dinner party eventually. We talked for a long time without it being a date. Just to people at a table with other people. She was direct and curious and slightly sarcastic in the good way. We exchanged numbers at the end. She texted first. First actual date we went for a walk and then got coffee. At the counter I reached for my card. She had already tapped hers. I said let me get the next round. She said deal. That was it. I was so disarmed by how simple it was. We dated for about 4 months, not a perfect match in the end. The genuinely good while it lasted. The money thing never came up again after that first coffee. Because it was not a thing between us. Just a thing we both handled as adults. When it ended cleanly. No bitterness, just not the right fit, which is a much better reason than anything money-related. Had a long conversation with Marcus about all of this. He had been watching the experiment from the side. Said, okay, I see what you were doing. Said he had started to notice the expectation too, on his own, without me saying anything. Said his current girlfriend had made more than him for the first year they dated. And he had still paid for almost everything. Said he never questioned it, until I brought it up. Now he had started to feel weird about it, not angry, just aware. I said awareness was the point. He said, but what do you do with the awareness? I said, just be honest. He said, that's simple. I said, nobody said simple and easy are the same. Thought about what equality in dating actually looks like. Not performative equality, not equality as a slogan. Actual practiced equality between two people who both exist and both have value. Means sometimes one person treats the other. Means sometimes you split. Means sometimes whoever has more picks up more. Means the financial arrangement is a conversation. Not an assumption, not a test, not a performance. Just a conversation between two adults. Means men are not walking wallets who prove love through spending. Means women are not passive recipients who award affection based on investment. Means both people show up as people, not as roles. I know that sounds basic. It is basic. The fact that it is controversial says something. I think about guys I know who are in debt from dating, who stretch themselves thin on vacations and dinners, trying to be enough, trying to pass the test. Guys who would not say no because saying no felt like failure, not as a partner, as a man. That is a mental health issue. That is men not being allowed to have financial limits. That is gender roles hurting men, and we do not talk about that part much. It does not fit the usual story. I also think about women who dated men who held the bill over them, who used money to control, who paid and then expected obedience. That is real too. That is gender roles hurting women. The old deal was bad for both sides, just bad in different ways. The answer is not to keep the old deal, but make it voluntary. The answer is to actually let go of the deal. Build something that actually makes sense for the people in it. I am still single at the time of writing this, not dramatically alone. Just dating slowly and being more honest about it. The experiment changed how I show up to dates. I am more relaxed, more curious, less performing. When I treat someone to dinner now I mean it. It is not a ritual, it is a choice. And choices mean something because they are not compulsory. When we split I am just being straightforward. Not making a statement, not punishing anyone. Just being a person at dinner. The dates that work are the ones where we are both just people. The dates that fail were probably going to fail for other reasons. The bill was never really the point. Someone asked me if I would teach my son to pay for dates, if I ever have one. I said I would teach him to be generous without being a wallet. To be thoughtful without being a performer, to treat people well because he wants to. Not because he is afraid of what happens if he does not. And I would teach him that his worth is not measured in receipts. That no amount of spending makes someone stay who does not want to. And no refusal to spend drives away someone who actually sees him. I think that is the thing nobody said to me at 20, and I wish they had. Anyway, that is the year I stopped paying for everything automatically. Learned more about myself than about dating, which was probably the point all along. Still going, still figuring it out. Same as everyone else, Finn.